Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, yWhales, wherever you are in the world. I know it's a constantly evolving space, and we have a really, really cool interview today. We're going to take a little step back away from the whole cryptocurrency and blockchain thing, and we're going to dive a little bit more into the Web3 metaverse and how are we actually going to, interact in a space where you're distanced from a physical presence. And I think what we're going to be looking at today with Sly Lee and Isaac is really, really, really one of those things that sci-fi has told us is coming. We just haven't quite seen it yet. So before we get into all that and all the excitement there, Sly, would you like to start us off with kind of the who or why you got here?
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much, Jay, for having us here. I'm Sly Lee. I'm co-founder and co-CEO of Emerge. And it's been an interesting personal journey for me working in now the metaverse, because I started out as a child of immigrants born and raised in Mississippi in the Deep South. Jay and I both share that Southern root, if you will. And I was before in my professional career in the marine science space and deep technology space. So I was doing things like 3D mapping underwater in Hawaii and countries around the world, leveraging really early photogrammetry software, sonar, LiDAR. This is 2013 or so, when we were trying to create 3D models and reconstruct them in digital format. But we were capturing the models underwater in ocean environments, which was extremely challenging. But that's really where I think cut my teeth in terms of blending different sensors, different technologies, really pushing the limits of 3D at a time where I think it was still a little bit too early for a lot of the compute to handle what we were doing in the space. I created a nonprofit around it. It was primarily an oceans education nonprofit. We got some funding from Autodesk, Google, Lenovo. And for 3 years, I just went around the world and 3D mapped lots of things underwater, like coral reefs. We 3D mapped the USS Arizona battleship at Pearl Harbor. We featured in Wired magazine, Fast Company. It's a really fun and exciting time. But that was the first step that led me to ultimately a huge moment in my life where I met Isaac and our third co-founder Mauricio in 2015, where we started this company Emerge, which we'll talk about later.
Fabulous. And Isaac, and real quick slide, by the way, I originally went to college to be a marine biologist.
Oh, nice.
So I share your affinity with, scuba diving and being a Midwesterner saying, no, I want to go great. Major in the beach.
Most kids grow up wanting to become one of like a few things, like an astronaut, a firefighter, or a marine biologist. And then at some point we lose the childlike wonder. And so I am really grateful that I did pursue it for a few years. And now I'm really grateful that we're working in the tech space now, because I think this is where we're going to have the most impact, to be honest.
I'm super excited to hear more. Isaac.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having us here. It's a pleasure. In my case, I have a similar journey as Sly just shared. The Web 3.0 and the Metaverse, those are very common words today, and we've been talking about this new field very intensively in the last few months. But it is in essence a convergence of many technologies that have been evolving and developing in the last few years, from sensor fusion to further development in 3D mapping and compute, to technologies like the one we are using, Ultrasound, right? That has been evolving a lot in the last few years. So my journey starts in technology. I am a telecommunications engineer. So I kind of grew up with that passion of creating technologies to improve people's lives. In particular, I was very passionate always about human connection. And I was born and raised in Spain, as you can tell by now by my accent. I spent my first years at a huge corporation at Siemens in the healthcare industry. I wanted to make an impact, so thought that joining a huge corporation could be the better path for me. And now I know that the entrepreneurship path is the right one to achieve that type of impact. During my weekends and nights, though, I was fulfilling that vision, that dream of being an entrepreneur. So I designed, when I was at Siemens, during my nights, during my spare time, this device for cancer treatment. That was my first experience as an entrepreneur. And it was a device aimed to improve the efficiency of the radiation therapy techniques, which is still today one of the most used cancer treatment techniques in the world. And that was a really good experience for me. Actually, I'm very grateful for that because I received this recognition by the MIT, the Innovators Under 35, and that award opened for me many doors, and I'm so grateful for that. One of those doors was the World Economic Forum and the WEF. At that time I was living in Colombia, spent 3 years there working for Siemens, and I worked a lot with my community when I was in Colombia. One of the things that I did was working with the former FARC guerrilla members as part of the reconciliation process. For context, Colombia was in war for 60 years with the FARC, and the most difficult part after we signed the peace treaty was the reconciliation, how to reconcile a society that has been torn by the war for so many years. And the second big door for me was actually this program that Sly mentioned before in Silicon Valley, funded by Google and NASA, where I got to meet them. And the three of us, we shared the immigrant story. That was the way we started. We realized very soon that we were very passionate about human connection, and we wanted to do something about it. We wanted to change the way we communicate with others when it's not possible to be physically present with the people that we care about.
So so we have a very interesting story already. We have, a marine. What's the technical term for that again?
I was a marine biologist.
So marine biologist, but specializing in sonar and mapping things that are not flat. Yeah, and
that was on my own spare time as well. So my professional day job was just the kind of classic vanilla marine biology, and then I ended up just converting my passion for tech into a nonprofit, and then forward.
So already an entrepreneur, and then we have over on the other side a hardware. If I don't mind if I call you a hardware geek, but like you love tinkering and playing with things, and so what have we built?
At Emerge, we've built a system that allows you to physically feel a virtual environment. And the key here is we do it without a glove, without a wearable, without a suit.
Yeah, everything started when we realized that we were very grateful for these technologies, our smartphones, these platforms like Zoom that became in the last recent years very popular. We are grateful for those technologies because enabled our lives as immigrants, but it is still very, very limited, right? When you want to feel more present with the people that you really care about. And when we thought about it, we realized that the missing piece was the sense of touch, because the sense of touch is so important for us as humans, right? If you think about it, we use our hands to explore our world. No? Our hands are the natural interface, and we use our hands as well to express our emotions. Sometimes there is nothing to be said, and the grasp of the shoulder or holding a hand is more than enough. So we thought, if that is so important for us humans, why we haven't seen it in our communication? So we decided to start working on that. Spend the first 5-6 years working on a technology that will allow us to incorporate the sense of touch in the most natural way. And we can talk later a little bit more about the technology.
So as a point, and I would love to hear you guys' feedback. We've interviewed a number of Web3, VR, AR, various platforms, and the consensus I hear is, Web 1 was defined by people suddenly spending 4 to 5 hours a day on a computer, which was never something that anyone would think of happening prior. Web 2 has been defined as moving that over and spending 4 to 5 hours a day, not talking on the phone, but touching or interacting with this flat device. And, while Web3 is still being, kind of decided on what it's going to be, and it's evolving daily, I've heard a number of people say that Web3 will be defined by people spending 4 to 5 hours a day in a VR, AR environment.
Mm-hmm. And I will add, with the people that really matter to you. We've been talking about the main focus of Web3 is a new type of economy, and how many things we are going to be sharing that new type of economy, and how we are going to exchange value. But from our perspective, the main difference between 2.0 and 3.0 is going to be the way we interact with others. Social media was that, an amplifier. So you were up there, and then out of the sudden you were connected with so many people, and you wouldn't know most of them. And we've seen how the connections that we're creating in that type of platform were weak. So I think that is going to be an approach that is going to be, or is going to be an aspect that is going to be very important in this new wave.
Awesome. So is this the device that you have?
Yeah, this is the device that we've actually built, and we've started very slowly testing with users over the last years, gathering feedback, and it uses ultrasound to create a force field that you can physically feel midair. We call this version, the first product, the Wave 1.
So Wave 1, and it's in prototype phase, or is it out?
Actually, as of just recently, we have launched the first availability of our product. If you go to our website, emerge.io, you can know.
Yes. First of all, I wanted to share that we've been working on this technology for a while. So in the last 2 years, we've been testing this device with real users. And that was really important for us because we wanted to be sure that whatever we will put in the hands of people, at the end of the day, will be very compelling and the content will be very engaging. And because the type of company that we wanted to be, we wanted to solve a real problem. So for the last 2 years, we put our device in the hands of consumers in their homes and also here in our office. And we have a video first that shows those reactions. And so, yeah, let's take a look.
This is absolutely absurd.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, whoa.
Oh, that's fantastic.
God, that's pretty wild.
Anyone in particular you would like to?
Yeah,
try this
we'll insert.
experience?
So
Yeah,
while
right
we don't
now.
have sound, please talk us through this because we'll insert the sound later.
Okay, sounds good. So what you might notice is that these people are using the product in a variety of conditions, in VR, in AR, without AR, VR wearables at all. We're really, truly aiming to create a new type of interface that enables touch across any virtual medium. And what you mentioned earlier about the shift from Web 2 to Web 3, I think the only thing I would disagree with is that I don't see it necessarily as the big defining factor of spending all that time in AR or VR. I think these are transition technologies that are enabling us to do some things a little bit better than we otherwise would be attempt to do on a 2D screen. But we definitely see even the current state of VR, as fantastic as the Quest 2 headset is, which is effectively a 4K display, 2K in each eye, and at a really affordable price point, we still see this as a transition step in terms of presence virtually. And so we've always been thinking about how do we future-proof our user interaction and our product that can pair and work in a variety of contexts. So that's why you see in this user video, they use it across a variety of mediums.
So a number of headsets, including one I haven't seen before, which is flashing those little lights at them. What are they trying to? Are they touching other people, or what are they touching right there? That they're clearly reacting to something.
In the video. Yeah.
They're actually reacting to a variety of different stimuli, some really early prototypes, something as simple as catching a virtual ball, to interacting and giving someone a virtual high five, to playing a game where they're shooting lasers out of their hands. There's a few different prototype experiences that we've been building over the last years and testing them, but all of them are built around the sense of social presence and geared towards multi-user interaction. And that's what we intuitively felt would be the strongest use case, even before we built the technology, was something as simple as this or a caress would be really powerful for someone to do virtually. And so every game that we built is centered around some type of social interaction.
Yeah.
So it's an amazing, concept, and it's amazing, and the fact that the follow through to bring this to market, because clearly, like I said, there's nothing tethered to them. They're clearly touching something, and you could see through a variety of people they were interacting with that shape in the same manner. Let's geek out for a second and really describe to me what is occurring underneath that plate.
Yeah. So we called our product, our first product, the Immerse Home, and the Immerse Home has three main components. The first one is the Immerse Wave 1 device. The second is a social virtual experience that you can enjoy in your Oculus Quest. and then a mobile application. So if we go by one, the emerged Wave 1 device is a new tabletop type of device that emits a force field in front of the user. And this is
so hold on. You're gonna hold on for a second, because force field and everything else. You're gonna have to describe what a force field is. Is it repelling like space lasers, or what does that mean for us laymen here?
It's true. We are so used to talk about this force field and use these words that sometimes we don't realize that we are talking about sci-fi type of language. Now we are talking about very futuristic concepts. So essentially what we are doing is we are using ultrasound. And since ultrasound is a mechanical wave, very similar to regular sound, just a different frequency, that ultrasound carries pressure. Right? When you go to a concert, for instance, you feel the music on your chest. What is happening there is the music, the sound is carrying air, is carrying pressure towards you, and you feel that. We are using a higher frequency, which means that we can manipulate that sound or ultrasound in a very precise way, in a millimetric precision. So essentially what we are doing is we are manipulating, sculpting that acoustic field in a very precise way, to the point that we can generate different volumes or different sensations, and we map those or that tactility to the virtual content. So the user is wearing a VR headset in this case. In the future, might be an AR headset, smart glasses, projected holograms, and we make that virtual content that the user is seeing tangible.
I am already regretting not bringing a smarter co-host on with me. So when we're talking about this wave, and it's not sound, because so like dogs aren't going to be freaking out with it or anything else. Is it a magnet thing? But like, like I said, you're really going to have to struggle with me, and this is a good case for anyone else wanting to know it. What is somebody reacting to? How are they feeling that? It's not airflow. It's not sound by that point anymore. What is the technical term for what they're touching?
It is difficult, actually, and our marketing team is doing a great job trying to explain how this feels before you feel it. But essentially, it's a pressure. Think about it as a caress that you feel on your hand. It is not enough pressure to stop your hand, so you are not going to feel the hardness of a table, right? But it gives you the idea that there is an object there, and you feel it, right? And gives you the reference, which is very important if we think about it as well from a reference perspective, right? Once you are in that new environment, you probably want to have a reference that virtual object is there, and if your hand passed through is because, well, it is virtual, but you can manipulate and you can interact with that object.
So Sly, you've reversed what you were doing with mapping, and you're now creating the pressure waves.
Yes, the concept, adding upon what Isaac mentioned of feeling a pressure wave. The best I can explain it is it sort of feels like what you expect a hologram would feel like. So if you see a hologram of a puppy in front of you, or Baby Yoda, right, or Princess Leia from R2-D2, you wouldn't expect to feel like a statue, right? Because it's pixelated, it's kind of transparent, it's translucent hologram. You expect, if you were to be able to touch it, probably have enough pressure where you could feel the 3D volumetric surface and angles of it, but not so strong where it would stop your hand from like closing in on it. So that is the level of fidelity that we can create and enable through our tech. But there's enough touch there where your mind fills in the gaps, and that's very important to convey what our intentions are, and our goal from a product perspective has always been not to replicate one-to-one reality, hardness of objects to the virtual world. Our goal is to bring a new language of touch in the virtual one and provide the right context and contours of touch where your mind fills in the gaps and fills in the spaces.
What's the current limits of the technology today? I mean, clearly, congratulations on being first to market with something like this, because conceptually I'm wrapping my brain around what this is, and we're going to be talking shortly about getting one of these air expressed over so I can showcase this on our Friday fireside. But the current limits, is that the size it is because that's the limit of it, or that's as much as you can do, or that's just your first, let's get it out into the market?
Yeah, great question, Jay. So the technology platform is pretty flexible. This particular form factor is giving us the best volume of interaction for the initial use case, and we can talk more about it. The immersed Wave 1 device emits this force field in front of the user, and this force field is tangible up to 3 meters. And
3 feet.
3 feet, sorry.
3 feet above.
I just arrived from Spain, so I'm so 3 feet above the device and 120 degrees of interaction, which is essentially the length of your arms, and we are optimizing for that type of volume. For other type of applications, you can tile these devices so they could talk to each other and you could create a bigger volume.
The reason that
I know you've already talked about at some point creating a room out of these.
it's possible. Yeah, there's nothing that stands in the way from filling an entire room or stadium with these. However, we've been really obsessed with what is the value for the user. And over the course of our years of our user testing, we found that there is an optimal dimension for a tactile space in a virtual world. And it happens to fit very nicely within some of your already current behaviors of where your mouse, keyboard, coffee cup lives on your desk. In the human factors world, this is called your kinematic sphere, or your primary cone of interaction. Because if you hold your hands out like this, the whole Minority Report dream, it's not needed actually, because your hands get really tired. If you hold your hand out for more than 30 seconds, unless you're like really in shape, you're going to feel some burn here. We found that
these get heavy.
Yeah, yeah, even those. We found that if you're going to engage and you put it perfectly, actually, 4 to 5 hours a day, you're going to constrain your movements to a pretty small cone in front of you. And that's exactly the cone that the first device, the Wave 1, enables. Now, if you want double the cone, that's perfectly fine. You can buy multiple units and then they combine. But we haven't, to be honest, found that need when we started testing with people. So we wanted to find what is the minimum viable footprint, minimum viable interaction area for a single device, which in the end we hope can become, very affordable. That's our ultimate vision, that this is a mass produced product that becomes a new category or device in the user's home, where each one of us, our parents, our future children can have one of these in the home. And you start filling out your home not only with visual devices like a TV or audio devices like surround sound, but you start to think about filling out your home virtually and what enables you to interact with the virtual world through the sense of touch.
I can already tell you right now, I don't ever want to hear a cell phone ring again. It can just, tap me on the back when my phone's beeping or buzzing or something, because I never want to hear it again.
Yeah.
So the possibilities of what you guys have built are really mind-boggling. And so what's the reaction? Because we saw the video, but when you're doing live demos in front of people that, again, my brain can only struggle to understand some of the words you're saying. What's the initial reaction or look on their face?
Yeah, and it depends also. The reaction depends on the type of person that is trying the system. The first reaction is always wow. It is obviously it's a new experience. It's unique, but we are getting the strongest reactions from people that are actually using the system with the people they care about. No? When there is an emotional connection, emotional link. Because it brings that impossible before sense, the sense of touch, into a new environment that allows them to communicate and feel present. I can talk from my personal experience. I have my family, as you can imagine, across an ocean in Spain, and for the last year I've been using VR to communicate with my parents every Saturday, and for the last 7 months now I've been using the immerse system. And the first time that I tried the system, the experience with my mom, she cried. Why she cried? Well, we are suffering from, we have a very real pain. No? I haven't seen them in 3 years. So we crave the sense of touch, and we are bringing that. So we think that those relationships that when people are separated, those people that have those relationships, those have the strongest reaction, the most positive reaction to our product.
Yeah, and in my case, a similar personal interaction with my brothers, who I deeply care about, and we don't live together anymore. We've got grown up and gone all over the country. And we play a lot of games on 2D consoles, on Switch, PC. We used to play chess a lot when we were growing up. And it's been really great to, over the last few months, and while we were prototyping and playing virtual chess within Emerge Home, when you can physically interact and feel the chess piece and then move it. And the thing is, my brothers and I were kind of tired, like a lot of gamers, of the same old competitive shooter type, MMO type, Battlefield type games. A lot of the times we just want to catch up and be in a space together, and where we don't have to compete or win any game. And that's what we've really built Emerge Home to be like, is sort of this being together, playing simple games. Think Mario Party, but really enabled by touch and very elevated by the sense of touch. I mean, when you bring touch into the metaverse, something as simple as the joy of like throwing a ball back and forth while chatting about your day or playing chess, it's really fulfilling, because the sense of touch, it sort of grounds you in your reality. Each one of us, if you were not able to feel this table or your ground or your chair, it'd be hard to gain leverage and understand what reality you're in. And so when you share the sense of touch and an experience with someone, you sort of feel closer together by proximity.
The implications of this device going mainstream, anyone that's even thinking about metaverse, even thinking about VR, AR, whatever the case is, there's a few things we hear constantly. There's a need for motion. There's a need to feel like you're moving without the distance. There's the need for kind of the sensory sound, which has really been done. I work with a number of these AR VR things, and sound is just fabulous, and that's been something to solve for a while. But touch is like you're wearing a vest so you can feel the bullets, or you do have the gloves, and let's be clear, anyone who's spent more than like an hour in one of these, like, I don't care what relaxing game you're playing, you just start to get hot and sweat because you're immobile. You're generally in a room that has, little to no circulation of, just like you're focused on one thing. And so the thought that you can free yourself from a lot of this, and we know that this is going to get smaller. And in fact, we interviewed somebody that had the contact lenses in the other day and was testing those out. And so being able to touch these, what's the long-term vision? Like where does this thing get? Is it like you talked about, you can tile them in a room, but what are some of the things that the developers are immediately coming back and saying, I can use this for?
Well, before we go there, actually, I love what you said, and we really resonate with what you just said on a few phrases you mentioned. Number one, freeing yourself from the technology. And the best user experiences, like, we're very obsessed with really great user experience that's frictionless. The best experience is always when the technology becomes invisible. And you mentioned a really great friction point that we were very cognizant of early on, the fact that a lot of the current attempts to create touch virtually are wearable, which incurs an incredible level of friction. Now, haptic suits, haptic gloves, those could be fine for certain niche applications where the friction is not bad, military, enterprise, whatever. We've been really obsessed with, okay, well, why hasn't it made it to consumer yet? Haptic gloves have been around since 1977. Why do they look the same, and why is the technology fundamentally the same as the haptic glove Zuckerberg was trying on the other month? And when we looked at the space, we said, well, maybe we can reframe the question, because to answer the question that the haptic gloves and haptic suits are attempting to answer are the one where you replicate reality one-to-one, feel a bullet, feel a rock that's super hard and dense in VR. But when you reframe the question and say, well, maybe we can create a new baseline of touch virtually, new language of touch, maybe you don't have to incur so much friction for the user. Maybe it can be without a wearable. And so that really resonated with us when you mentioned it. And so in terms of like where the technology can go, I mean, we talk about this all the time. What you see on our website is actually a little bit different than the true vision of Emerge. Touch is just the first step for us as a company. If we're fortunate enough, and so far we have been, to fulfill our vision for Emerge, we want to exist over the next 200 years to build products that bring us stepwise transformations and forward in how we feel present. And I can talk about some of those things we brainstormed really early days, but we look at the last 200 years. We went from the telegram in 1830s to the metaverse now, as we're talking about today, in only 200 years. So we're really excited about what do the next 200 years look like, and how can we fundamentally feel more present across distance and time. And touch is the first step, but it's not the last one.
Yeah, I was looking at you. I wasn't sure you wanted to talk about the grand vision, but
Oh yeah, no, don't bring it on. 'Cause then I got 5 more questions after you before we get a few of these on order.
yes, as Sly mentioned, so touch is the first baby step. For us, everything is in the brain. Our emotions are in the brain. The way we experience is in the brain. So in the future, we'll keep incorporating new different technologies to allow us to stay connected through our brains, through BCI and brain-computer interfaces. There is this very interesting show in Netflix now called Sense8. If you haven't watched it yet, I recommend it. It is very interesting. I find it very interesting. Essentially, it is based on a group of people that they can feel each other from a distance. Each person can feel up to 8 people. It's called a cluster. And they can feel each other. They can feel their emotions. They can even feel each other physically. And they think as if they were connected. And it is due an evolution of the frontal lobe. And because of that evolution, now this new type of human being was born, and it's called the Homo sensorium. Well, we think that through technology, by adding different new technologies in the future that could be incorporated into our bodies, we could get to that stage. And that is very, very interesting for us. It's fascinating.
We really like playing at just to wrap up there, we really like playing at the frontier of what's possible. And we love sci-fi. I love Black Mirror as well, which is very dystopian, because we are very cognizant of the fact that how the technology is designed can become a dystopia or utopia, or most likely something in between. And that's actually a huge reason why we felt a really great flow between us as co-founders, because we weren't eternal techno-optimists. We moved from Silicon Valley actually very purposely to LA, because we believed in this mix of technology and culture and design in a very, sustainable and equitable way.
So let's jump back to the device, which, again, is I need right here so I can play it, just in case you're curious. But what are it's plugged in, it's a powered. So is there a runtime? Does it get hot? Is there a maximum amount of usage you can have? Is there any harm for it running for days, hours, months, years?
No. Well, as every computer, it gets with time. It can get hot, but no, there is. We don't have limitations in terms of time. Actually, unlike a computer, it uses its power when you are in that interaction, when you are interacting with that virtual object. While you are not interacting, while the device is just sitting in front of you, it is basically in a standby mode. So that allows us to have a device that can last very long, and its components can last very long as well. I wanted to mention, now that you were touching on the particular aspect of the hardware, for us also, because the type of company that we are a mission-driven company, one of the priorities that we had when we started was we want to focus on human experience, on the user interaction, because we want to solve that problem, but also we want to be affordable. Right? For us, it was inconceivable to think of a consumer device company that was trying to solve that problem. We wanted to be in every household, but on the other hand, we'll have a very expensive device. So we had to drive our innovation at Emerge in the way that we will drive the cost down. And that was one of the reasons why I stayed in this R&D mode for these many years. We wanted to get to a point that the consumer device, that the hardware within the consumer device could be very cheap, very inexpensive. So to achieve that, we developed our own sensor, and that was a big milestone for us. If we take out this lid that you see in front of you, you will find a group of sensors, group of speakers, and those are the ones responsible to create that force field that we were talking about before. No? These are kind of very small speakers. So we developed our own speaker based on this very well-known technology called the MEMS, which are essentially very, very tiny microelectronic systems that allows a membrane to move very fast and in a very efficient way up and down and generate that ultrasound. And it is one of the first one of its class in the world, and we are very proud of it. We didn't design it on our own. We have great partners and great investors in that space. But essentially, that new sensor is going to allow us to create a future consumer device that is an order of magnitude lower than a smartphone, and that is very exciting for us.
That is amazingly cool. Beyond. So let's talk about the interface into it, because we've established the hardware is beyond my my knowledge base. Is there APIs? What's the interface like if I want to create my own experience?
Yeah, you had a really great question earlier, Jay, with regard to developers. So the first way that you would be able to experience the Emerge Home is with combination and within an Oculus Quest 2. Now, when the sky is limitless and you have infinite possibilities of what you could do, it actually makes it very challenging. So we very purposely constrained the first use case to make sure that the first impression, essentially, of the world of what we've built is fantastic and has the best user experience possible and frictionless as possible. So actually, we've built with content creators, with a very few content creators, very closely, some experiences that tie in natively with an app within Oculus Quest that we've built called Emerge Home. We are working as well with other content creators and VR studios to fulfill other game rooms that will be enabled through our hardware, the Wave 1. The developer path for us is one that's quite unique in that we've essentially enabled a new user interface. So we've been working very closely hand in hand with developers as opposed to pushing out a dev kit very widely.
That's fascinating. And to be clear, it doesn't matter if it's flat on the table, on the wall, or on the ceiling. It creates the same force field.
It can be oriented in a variety of ways. However, all of the experiences have been designed with this sort of flat on a surface position in mind. And that's something that might be good to note in that, Isaac mentioned, you can feel objects within a 3-degree vertical height, 120-degree cone. Because you have a very large
3 feet, not 3 meters, right?
Yeah, 3 feet, not 3 meters. That comes in Wave 3. Because you have this range, the basics and the fundamentals of how we create that range, it's called beamforming, enables you to physically feel a variety of different angles of a virtual object. So say you're wanting to feel the curve of a ball. Well, I can feel the side of the ball here and here because we're actually be able to beamform at very sharp angles. A really interesting thing is even you potentially can feel it here, up underneath the ball, but you shouldn't technically be feeling it. But what happens, we found out in a majority of users, not all, but in majority, is your mind fills in the gaps. Remember what we said earlier. We're not trying to replicate touch one-to-one. Our goal is to provide the right sense of touch in the right visual and audio context so you have this experience that's here. And so that's why after years of testing with people and users and human factors, this product is to be positioned in this way. We could have built a box. You stuck your hand in the box, feel it from all angles, but we found out you don't need to because of what I just mentioned about being able to steer the beam at very sharp angles and also creating the lowest friction user experience.
My mind immediately goes to like the mischief that I could cause with this thing in a dev kit. Can it go through an acoustic ceiling tile? Because I could have more fun with that in an office environment that I could even think of.
Virtual pranks, you're imagining.
Yeah. It is. So what's been one of the kind of coolest use cases you've seen that the developers come up with? Clearly they're making shapes. Are they, hard, like you can make a ball or a cone and that's it? But the hand's obviously moving and changing. So it's
we probably have
live
very
creating
personal,
this.
actually, favorites. Yeah, you go first.
And we could perhaps describe the first games that we have inside. I have a preference. The one that I like the most. One of the games that we have in our Immerse Home experience is called Worse Than Fly. And it's basically an experience where you use your hands to throw a flow of water So you obviously feel the water on your hand, and you are directing that flow of water towards some peaks, and those peaks are kind of in a circle, like running around. As you wash them, they fly, and you get a point. And then there is this golden peak that always makes me laugh. I love it, and that gives you more points. And you can play with up to 8 people, I believe, in this circle, and it's so fun. It's so fun. It's meant to be just a fun experience, but it's so competitive. You really want to win that game.
Yeah, that game is very much in line with the concept of Mario Party games, where you have these sort of mini games that are really fun and silly, and like in a party setting can be a ton of fun with your friends and family, but also competitive. A lot of our games are built with that same formula in mind. One of my favorite things that we've seen a developer partner build is really in the realm of sort of redefining what is a virtual handshake or what is a virtual high five. Because in the real world, we do this. Those are pretty much like it, maybe a fist bump. In the virtual world, like we said, we're interested in what is a new UI there. Maybe we don't have to bring the one-to-one into the virtual world. So there's other concepts that you can actually experience in Emerge Home where this is redefined. And as an example, we've been playing around with the combination of certain gestures that are pretty universal, like doing this. And when you do this, our system detects this gesture, and it sends actually a really special sense of touch within your palm, and then it emanates outwards and is sent in the direction that you made the heart shape, and then the other person on the other side can receive your heart sensation. It's almost like in Star Wars, you have a force power, and you can actually feel someone's force or send the force to somebody.
Oh my God, I love you guys. You're such great sci-fi nerds. So we've talked about how it emulates the field up and what it can do. How is it reading your user interaction? What's it doing there?
Basically, we are using the hand tracking technology that is embedded into the headset.
Okay.
Yeah. This is, for instance, an Oculus 2 headset. There are 4 cameras on these 4 corners. And yeah, that is the hand tracking we use. If you use in the future an AR headset, for instance, a HoloLens, those headsets bring also hand tracking. So we are leveraging the state of the art of hand tracking that is out there.
There is a potential.
So somebody, they don't have to have that to be able to send their hand or their interaction.
In the first edition of the Emerge Home system, we are leveraging the hand tracking on the Oculus Quest to have that full experience that we just talked about. But we are already conceiving and prototyping having hand tracking on board our device. In theory, sound energy has primarily been used as a tracking technology. That was my past, 3D mapping underwater objects, even above water. Mm-hmm. So we could do it here, but we've just, as a startup, been really focusing our priorities on output, the touch, and leveraging off-the-shelf hand tracking. But in terms of future development, we have quite a lot of options.
So listen, we know how hard sometimes it is to convince PE and VCs, something this conceptual. How's it been working in the investment community in and around Web3? Have they been receptive to this, or are they still kind of
landscape within the metaverse? It's changing very quickly. A VC itself changed very quickly during the pandemic. Last year, we ended up finding great alignment with a few investors that we didn't expect that were actually industry experts and operators in the space. Matthew Ball, Kevin Lin, the co-founder of Twitch, Mark Merrill, co-founder of Riot Games, makes League of Legends. All of them ended up really finding flow with what we were building and aligning with our vision, and ended up backing us as individual investors, which is a huge honor for us. And we see the next phase of financing in the space, and specifically our product, with investors that are builders that understand how challenging it is to build this, something in the space and operate a company, but also the big potential of this. I don't think enough people are really focusing. Matthew Ball was just telling me this week. Enough people aren't focusing on what is next. I think there's a lot of very linear challenges that we know we have to do: increase refresh rate, increase bandwidth, increase interoperability. And we've been sort of tackling this pillar of the metaverse off in a corner with regard to human interaction. And there are investors that are now aligning with that vision. And we're excited that they happen to be people that are simultaneously building the metaverse in their areas.
It's absolutely fascinating, the technology, and again, to just come from the two of you in two very different worlds, and to bring, your passion and your energy together. How'd you meet? Where did this come from?
Well, Silicon Valley, right?
Mhm.
Actually, as a child, that was my dream. I wanted to build a company in California, and well, here I am. So yeah, I met Sly and Mauricio in this program funded by Google X and NASA. It was a pretty cool program, 10 weeks in Bay Area.
And Google X is the Moonshots incubator arm of Google. Those aren't familiar.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was a very interesting program. 80 people from very different backgrounds,
45 countries.
45 countries. We had people from the filming industry, actors, directors, people from the corporate world, like myself. I was at Siemens back then. People from the social entrepreneurship world, as Sly. And all of us, we had the passion about technology and the drive of using technology to improve people's lives. So it was a very intense summer together. And for us, it was very powerful that realizing that we were sharing this connection or this passion about human connection. But the real link was the soccer field.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah, we met playing soccer. Actually, if you recall, so we met playing soccer before we worked together, and we saw that flow in the field. So we said, yeah, let's work together. Let's see.
What was that? What was the early 30-second elevator pitch?
It was very similar, actually, to what we're doing now. It was we had a tagline, "Feel connected." We had a tagline, a touch of reality, and we actually concepted. The first pitch was imagine being able to physically feel on a FaceTime call, like very linearly. Because if you remember, 2015 was before the first Oculus was available. So we were thinking maybe you could create touch on a FaceTime call, like literally maybe on the back of a cell phone or something. But very quickly we started seeing the potential of a 3D space, 3D touch.
Yeah, it's essentially, it's true. The first very initial seed for us was thinking about a Telegram for touch. No, imagine that you will be able to send the touch over the distance in its most simple form. Yeah.
It's such a cool story, and that's why I always like to ask, entrepreneurs like yourself, like, how did it start? Because a lot of our, again, our audience is more B2B business and growing in that kind of high level VC world. And it's very interesting to hear, two young entrepreneurs like yourself from very different backgrounds brought together, by Google. It's one of the few good things they've done this week, and provided you guys an opportunity to meet and collaborate.
It was
now, are you guys, true Web3 people where you're now working, you're clearly together right now, but do you guys work remotely most of the time or with your team, or are you guys physically in a shop?
Now many companies or most of the companies are working in this remote environment. Yeah, we are hybrid. Since we are building hardware, we have members that need to be here with us in the office, and the rest, we are 80% software engineers, so the rest work from home, and we've been operating that way. This is the first year actually that we have members outside LA. So 90% of the team is based in LA, and then we have a few members that are dispersed across US and a growing hub in Seattle. We are very excited about that city. It's going to be very important for us.
Love it.
We have financial backing from some great venture capitalists such as M13 based here in LA and Vulcan Capital, the late Paul Allen's fund, as well as industry leaders that are actively building and have built big companies in the metaverse, and thought leaders in the space, including Matthew Ball, Kevin Lin, the co-founder of Twitch, and Mark Merrill, the co-founder of Riot Games, which makes games like League of Legends. So we're really excited and been really honored to have been and found financial backers that align with the bigger vision that we have at Emerge to connect people across distance and time, and to take the leap in this pretty bold bet to create a new consumer interface. And we're really excited about this next coming year, as I think a lot of other investors in the space start to shift their focus towards what is now being referred to as the metaverse.
So in, and like I said, you guys are clearly, you've got a product out. This is huge. So it's a first of first. I don't think there's any competition in the space. So congratulations for first to market and creating force fields, which I will absolutely need a t-shirt stating that such. And, as we kind of move into metaverse, you're clearly spending a lot of time in the space, AR, VR. We're looking for a new name instead of metaverse, because it seems Zuckerberg has stolen that from us. So, but in and around that field, what are you guys seeing that's just cool, or anything in related to Web3 that has really got you guys inspired and excited? Because what I'm seeing is a very inspirational product, and I can say that our viewers and everyone else that's going to look at it see this and have a million ideas of ways to do it. And again, the first thing I'm doing is harassing you guys so I can create an alert system so I don't ever hear emails or anything coming off my computer again. just ding me or tap me or drive me crazy until that's done. But what are you guys seeing that's just awesome out there?
Personally, perhaps I'm personally more interested on display technologies, beyond what we all of us know, the Facebook, the Meta ones, and the Microsoft ones. There are very cool startups doing really good work on very advanced display technologies, from AR glasses. If you want to Google them, Cura AR is a really cool company based in Silicon Valley. They are building AR glasses, and there is another company in New York called Looking Glass that are very focused on projected holograms, which are holograms that comes out from a screen, and that is very interesting for us. We wanted to build that technology that was very natural and intuitive without wearables, so that is a really, really good pair for our technology.
And then that same line of thinking, there's some other chip level companies also in the display world we've been tracking, like Mojo Vision. Ostendo is based here in LA, that makes sort of these very small light photonic chips that will enable ultimately very lightweight wearable AR glasses. Another trend I'm really excited about is not really new, but I think it was new maybe a year or two ago, or very hot, but now we're going to start to see the real ramifications of it, or everything around the creator economy, and the fact that big companies are now starting to realize that empowering people and consumers with the tools to make their own content pays off from a business perspective. And we're starting to see that shift from AAA gaming studios, perhaps, or maybe at least a blend from that, to more community-generated content. And that's really exciting in general. Also happens to be very exciting in our case, because ultimately we are shifting towards the final user experience where you can customize and create things that matter to you and moments that matter to you. I actually really resonate with the whole turning off the cell phone notifications, Jay, because they drive me crazy as well. And it's kind of silly how we use cell phones today. They're not phones anymore. And so having someone call me on the phone is a little bit odd, and it's completely out of context depending on where I am. But our spaces should understand what we're doing at the time, and if it's the appropriate time to notify us. And I'll just tease out that we've been thinking about user experiences like that from our perspective as well. In terms of our product, we're building for the next 10-year vision something we used to call the XR Hub, where this could allow and enable a lot of the interaction interfacing with your virtual social interactions in your home. Now we might call this like a Metaverse Hub. Right now it enables touch, but there's a lot more that can go into this, and that's all I'll say for now.
Awesome, guys. No, absolutely driving the editors crazy. So if people want to learn more about Emerge or you guys in general, where's the best place for them to reach you?
Our website. Yeah, please come to our website, immerse.io. And we have a lot of information there, and all the features and the ways to buy our device.
We just launched, so it's a really exciting moment to join our journey and be part of our community.
That's fabulous. And you've seen, obviously you guys are going to be on social, wanting to get those reactions, wanting to get those, those first touch with with your force field. So guys, I really thank you so much. Hang out for a second. Again, that's emerge.io, and super excited for the new force field coming to my office here very soon.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you, Jay.